vehicle is in the green what?
That's why to give me some units over here ASAP. This man trying to run this lady off the street. And he's hit her and he's collided with her. We're gonna be right here. He got to go ahead, stop! Hold on.
You got a gun.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Put it down!
Please help me.
Put it down! Drop the gun! 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 Oh my God! Shots fired, headquarters! Shots fired! Roll over! Roll over! Roll over!
It only takes a second to get into trouble, but it takes a whole lot to get out of it. A lot of the kids, they just don't know, they're not educated.
I looked to my deputy clerk with sort of an exasperated look, and she looked back and she said, "Judge, they just don't know."
The story begins in Shreveport, Louisiana, where Tony Irvin spent most of his time with a caring family. But at the age of 15, he faced charges of armed robbery.
I was arrested at the age of 15 years old, and before I was arrested, I met a guy, and we met at church. We met on good terms. I was real close to the pastor, and the guy I met, he was already out on bond. He was a lot older than me, and we started hanging out. And so one day he came to my house, and my mom saw him.
And I did let him know, I appreciate if you wouldn't leave my son in no trouble, because I'm just a parent that I'm straight out with people, you know. So he kind of looked at me, and I know he wasn't used to that type of straight out conversation.
One day he came with this idea to steal some rims.
I didn't think that they would do nothing that seriously, because we didn't know really the background of this young man.
I agreed to it. I didn't think it was a big deal, had no clue what it was gonna lead to, and so me being young, trying to fit in with somebody older, I'm like, yeah, cool, and so we did it.
When that influence spirit came along, it really came in sneaky on us.
Guns was pulled on the scene. The people were robbed. We took their rims, and he gave them to his girlfriend.
At the time, my son was not home when I had this encounter with God. And he woke me up about 3 in the morning, and he told me he was very angry with Tony. And he said, Tony, I'm angry with Tony. And I was very scared, because I never had experienced God on this level in my life. And he said it again. He said, Tony, I'm angry with Tony. And in my finite mind, I said, in my small mind, I'm thinking, I said, have he killed somebody? Because the way God came so hard, I had thought Tony had killed somebody. And I began to weep, and I said, God, have Tony killed somebody? And he said, no, but I'm angry with Tony, and I'm gonna deal with Tony.
One night I was in the house, and we had a knock on the door. And at that time, I had got involved in other things, for as like selling drugs and doing things I had no business. And so a knock was on the door, real heavy knock. Right before that, my mom warned me to be careful. She had a warning from the Lord for me not to be doing anything wrong. And so when the knock hit the door, it said it was the police. I looked out the window, you had police everywhere. It scared me because I was only 15 in the 10th grade. I was going to Fair Park High School, right in Queensburg. And they came in and they told my mom that they want to take Tony Irvin down for questioning. And so me not thinking that what we did was anything bad, just stealing rims, I had no clue that we were going down to be questioned about that. And so my mom said, well, son, what is going on? And I told her, I don't know. And so she said, well, let's just go down and see, and when we come back home, we could talk about it. But she had no clue that I wasn't going to come back home. And we went upstairs, and my mom convinced me to go to trial. We was crying. I said, Mom, if I go to trial, I might never come home. And she said, I have a good feeling, go to trial. And we came back and set trial, and you said, if you want to go to trial, Mr. Irvin, we could take this matter to trial. And I said, I'll go to trial. And we started trial. And so this was a moment right here. That's something. Judge Scott Creighton was my judge. And it didn't look good. And so thank God I'm here back in the dorm in my regular clothes sharing the good news. Bless the Lord. That somehow God had turned the tables. I just left meeting with the judge doing a film. That was amazing that I was at work last week in Florida and the judge that sentenced me rang my phone. That's amazing. Have your judge ever called you? That's something. The judge called me and said, we need you to come and be in a film. I said, are you serious? He said, yes.
Meet 1st Judicial District Court Judge Scott Creighton. His mission? To lower the crime rate. His method? Teaching in schools and prisons. The two programs he created, Don't Let This Be You and Sexting, Texting, and Beyond, are designed to inform the students of the seriousness and long-term consequences of violating the law.
Okay, these three guys on top here ended up being mad at this guy, and they go after him one night, and the problem is they get their target. Okay, all this is just terrible and heartbreaking. They get their target, but they kill this young man, Jermichael Lewis, and this young lady, Chiquita Chambers. Chiquita Chambers was 15 at the time. Jermichael Lewis, 18, because of what? You know, a bunch of nonsense. And so we have ruined lives. These three had separate jury trials before me. Each jury convicted each respective person. I sentenced them to life imprisonment, which is a mandatory term. I don't have any choice. And they will not return to Shreveport.
They need to know. If students will know what will happen if they break the law, the things that will happen afterwards, not just robbing a store, but look at the consequences behind it. So the upgrade is great. They need every bit of it.
I was excited when I first heard about the program because I felt that it filled the void in the community. The program has been needed for a very long time.
And it teaches young people how not to get in trouble, because so many times young people will be talking at wherever they might be hanging out, and they'll be saying, if you have some marijuana under the front seat, the people in the back seat can't be charged with it.
Over the last 5 or 6 years that we've been doing this program, we've actually had parents come in and say what an impact the program had on their children. This is something we hear often. There's no way to actually measure the results, but we get very good feedback from parents regarding their children who have participated in the program.
I have been smoking marijuana in my car. Let's assume I'm not a judge, I'm not a law-abiding guy, just for purposes of this hypothetical, but instead I'm a weed smoker, and I've been smoking it in my car, and I tell my friend over here that I've got more of that under the seat. All right? I get pulled over for speeding. The officer smells marijuana, searches the car, and finds more under the driver's seat. Can the officer arrest both Ron and me for possession? Well, the answer is, of course he can, because even though I own it, and it's a stronger case as to me, he knew about it, I told him about it, it was right there in the car, and he has constructive possession.
I absolutely recommend it to any young individual who may end up in the criminal justice system. I think it's a program that's indispensable, should be a part of every school curriculum, and every young individual should see the program.
And so what Judge Creighton does is tries to teach the people that have not been in trouble. He tries to teach them how not to get in trouble. And it's followed by a good tour of CCC, our correctional facility that has 1,500 prisoners in it.
When I initially started, we had several offenders that were young, but not as many as we do now. And the fact that they're younger seems like the crimes are more violent that the younger offenders are committing also. I would say that's the biggest change I've seen in my 14 years. The main reason I would say was drugs. A lot of the kids are out, it's more drugs. Drugs are more prevalent right now. When I started, the main drug that was used was crack cocaine and marijuana. Now you have the prescription pills, and they're doing more violent crimes in order to get these drugs.
This illegal stuff is bad on your liver, bad on your kidneys, bad on your organs, bad on your body, and it will turn you into someone who looks like that and dead before age 40, just like her.
So it's just the consequences behind all of this, just drugs and driving too fast, hitting somebody. If you hit a child or hit someone, you will never forget that. So our students need this. They need it. They need to know the law and what would happen if they break the law.
Ron Stamp said just a minute ago, this is graphic, but you know what? Crime is graphic. The consequences are graphic, and we're not here to soft pedal these points of law. This is important information, and I want to impress upon you how dangerous it is to do this illegal stuff. But again, we talk about sexting because unfortunately that is an issue we need to talk about, even with regard to eighth graders. The social danger is that it can be easily and widely promulgated, distributed, over which the originator has no control. And then once it's out there, remember this, you can't get it back. You can't say, oops, I wish I hadn't sent that. I'm going to now retrieve it, because it's out of your hands. You no longer have that power of choice to do that.
Don't Let This Be You is not just a lecture. On a tour of the Caddo Correctional Center, the students get a glimpse into the stark realities of prison life.
There are murderers, there are killers, there are rapists in here. It's a serious business. It's not a joke. You come to play, go that way.
It's cold out here, isn't it? Well, in jail, you don't have a choice whether you want to come out here or not. If one of these deputies tell you to come out here, you come out here. Because if you come here, you have no choice. You're going to do what we say do, when we say do it, how long we say do it. Otherwise, you're going to suffer the consequences.
They had me shackled from my arms around my waist to my feet down. You know what I'm saying? I got to roam in the rec area, shackled down. I can't be loosened, you know what I'm saying?
And when you go in them cells locked down for 22 hours, you got on a pair of green shorts and a t-shirt. And most of the time around this time of year, it's warmer out here than it is in the lockdown cell. I've seen grown men, grown women cry out for their mama, their daddy. The same mom and daddy they ain't paid no attention to when they was out on them streets.
When I first got here, I didn't believe in God. I was an atheist.
I was raised in a religious household. Went to church, my mom beat me dead if I wasn't in the car to go to church. Did I want to go to church? Nope. I heard things, I still remember things to this day that the preacher said. I hear stories the preacher preached today and I can remember them. Did I pay attention? No. But since I've been here, it's all you have is time. I don't get no visits. I don't get no phone calls. My father's passed away. My mother's Brittle diabetic, 70% blind, can't walk, can't get around. She writes me, has to use glasses and magnifying glass. I get a letter maybe once a month from her. I got a lot of time to sit and change. Before I come to jail, I couldn't even read. I could read, write, do anything now. I learned it here. Time. And I've used this time to, I do a lot of reading. And without God, it ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work.
I mean, I threw the Bible down because I didn't believe. You know, these people right here telling me about God, and He's helping them out. No, He's not helping them out. You're coming back 3 or 4 times.
Not to give up. Wanting to show myself, the others that I'm involved with, and be a role model for my kids. The last thing my oldest daughter said when I was holding her by and telling her I love her is, Daddy, please don't let it be some years before I see you again. It had been 5 years before I see him.
I've got a grandson now, and that's one of the main things that really stopped me and made me think whenever he said "Papa, Baba" on the phone.
How old is your grandson? So,
yeah, he's 2.
In addition to the Don't Let This Be You program, I've also designed 2 other programs. One is titled No More Strikes.
Don't Let This Be You warns the students about the consequences of crime. In the same way, the No More Strikes program gives the inmates a glimpse into post-prison life.
And what Judge Creighton does is like an extra boost, you know what I'm saying? It's more than enough. It really cannot be outspoken, because now you have a judge telling you just exactly what you're going to face when you put yourself into these situations. You can't beat that.
These are guys who are in custody, who have been convicted, who are serving time, usually 2 years, 3 years, something on the lower end of a large sentence, and they're going to be out in a year or so, and therefore I think it's important to cover the legal issues that they face. One is that they cannot be convicted of another felony, because if they do, it's the 3 strikes are out, habitual offender law that comes into play.
No, what you learn is, when you do learn about the time or the things that firearms or whatever carry, you end up learning it the hard way, or either hearing it from word of mouth from another person. But to actually hear it come from a judge makes a big difference. Now you actually know that this is the law telling you this. And so you have to understand that if you put yourself in these positions, then this is what's going to happen. But there are alternatives, so you don't have to make these choices. That's what they try to tell you. That's the basic idea of what the class is and what the reentry program is all about.
Also, I cover the conditions of parole, and I also talk about, with regard to these inmates in my No More Strikes program, that they need to embrace the fact that they are who they are. They are convicted felons. Their status is different. They need to go ahead and address it and determine, what are we going to do about it? And I think disclosure is important in terms of job application, because after all, anyone charged with any crime where the DA's file charges officially, and certainly those who have been convicted, have a public record and the employer can find it. So they need to go ahead and disclose that.
My second brother is in Arizona State Prison, was facing the death penalty. When I got my license to practice law, 3 years later, my boss walks in the office and says, "Hey man, I got a call from Arizona. They said some guy named Stamps committed a horrible murder in Arizona, and his brother is a lawyer in Louisiana." And I'm sitting in this plush desk, and the managing partner comes in and says, "Well, I only know 2 Stamps lawyers in the whole state of Louisiana, and one is an old white guy, and this guy in Arizona is a black guy." That's how I was told that my brother had killed a 17-year-old kid. In that same year, once my mother learned that her son was facing the death penalty, my mother had a stroke. And She almost lost her life. And 3 years later, my other brother was caught in New York with about $1.6 million in cocaine. He was convicted for not only the possession of cocaine, but he was also convicted for killing 2 people. And what I tell you is this: we were raised by the same mother, good Catholic woman, and we all had the same father. You know what made the difference? My brothers gave me an example of what I didn't want to be. I have a 23-year-old nephew in here right now for armed robbery. Moved from New Orleans, come to Shreveport, he calls himself Hit the Lick. And you know what I have to say to him? Absolutely nothing. And you know why I have absolutely nothing to say to him? I love him, but this is what I have to say. He has to face the consequences just like you guys. And you know what? If he was someone else's child across the table and he did what he did and I'm the prosecutor, what do you think I'm going to do? I did my job. You know how many times I've had to send 17 and 18 and 19-year-old kids to prison for armed robbery? And I'm supposed to call and ask my fellow prosecutors to give them a break? You know what I said? Hell no. I'm not picking up a phone. I'm not doing any of that. Because you know what? Accountability is accountability. He doesn't get any breaks.
These judges don't look at us and have compassion no more. They don't know about mercy. They don't believe in mercy no more. You finna get sunk on your first charge.
I don't get any extra credit for being here. Nobody writes anything in my file. Okay? I don't get any extra retirement later on, way down the line when I turn, 70 years old and I'm eligible for retirement. Ron Stamps and I are here because we care. Now there's some who come in to this program, No More Strikes, as well as the other programs, with an attitude. The attitude is, you're not going to change me, don't even try. I came here with a bad attitude, and I intend to leave with a bad attitude, if you don't mind. I can't do anything about them.
No matter how grand an idea may be, it takes many resources to implement it. Time, money, labor, and equipment are the bare minimum needed to make the difference between a fleeting thought and an idea brought to fruition. These resources cannot be effectively gathered without a formal organization to orchestrate the process. In order to make these programs available across the country, Judge Creighton shifts his focus to forming a nonprofit organization to help him.
A corporation lives forever until it's dissolved legally. That's one reason I'm doing it. It's a nonprofit corporation, and the corporation, not me, but the corporation could accept contributions, charitable contributions that can be written off in terms of federal tax law, right, and in accordance with federal laws. And any contributions can cover the costs of equipment in terms of laptop computers and power and projectors. Notice is a big issue. We need to provide visibility to the public such that the public knows when we present these programs. It's not just enough to present them. It's important to get visibility so that people know about it and people can plan to attend the program. So notice can be done by some information provided to the media and perhaps some small level advertising, which costs money.
Right.
And therefore, that's the reason for the corporation. It can survive me, and it can carry on business, and the costs associated with presenting this in high schools can be paid for. I've never taken a penny from anybody, and never will. It's not about compensation. It's about reimbursement of actual costs for me. All right, ready?
Sure. All right, let's go ahead and get into our guest speaker. Having served on both the civil and criminal divisions, Judge Creighton has presided over hundreds of jury trials and well over 1,000 hearings and bench trials. Scott is president of the Louisiana District Judges Association for 2011 and 2012 term. He also serves on the advisory committee, the Louisiana Judicial College Board of Governors, the Louisiana Supreme Court Committee on Judicial Ethics, the Court Rules of Committee, There's a lot of stuff here. I'd like to go ahead and introduce Judge Scott Creighton. If you could come on up.
This is titled Justice and Beyond, and I think you may understand a little bit more about the title as we go along. And by the way, my wife keeps asking me, what's the beyond part? Okay? What's the beyond part? I want to know. And my response to her is this: come to the program and you'll find out. And that usually ends the discussion. My whole point really has been to do the work in terms of teaching teenagers these issues. Speaking of good work, these programs that I'm doing, the business of being president of the State Judges Association has allowed me some visibility where I can talk to them, that is the other 250 state judges across the state, from New Orleans all the way, all over the state. I can talk to them about these programs that I'm doing, and I have gotten about a dozen requests for my PowerPoint programs. They are doing these programs in their districts. I don't know about the level of monetary contribution, but if it's, the nonprofit entity will allow that to happen. And my mission is to have everybody statewide, all judges statewide, perhaps coupling with district attorneys to go into our high schools and offer this information. These kids have got to know. What I might do is just simply spend some time thinking about who I would want to be on the board. And it will act through a board of directors like any other nonprofit corporation, a 501c3. Interest is important. A level of interest is important, but it needs to be the right composition of people to get started. And this corporation will outlast me, and it may be my legacy and my gift to the state. And it's in the development stage. Stay tuned. And so I'm out there telling people that just don't know, and this business of no child miseducated, well, you know what? Let's educate them. Let's do something. Let's all do something to prevent any children lost, because, like I said, they grow up to be adults lost. Thank you very much.
According to the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics, over 7 million adults were either incarcerated in America's prisons and jails or on probation and parole. The number of incarcerated Americans has more than doubled since 1988. Casey Douglas Allen is one of those inmates who has gone through Judge Creighton's No More Strikes program and will soon be returning to society. In order to reach the more than 7 million offenders like him, a nonprofit organization is essential to mobilize and equip judges and communities nationwide to lower the crime rate through education.
Majority of us that are coming, we're not new to this. We're repeat offenders. So I think to lower the crime rate, come to the jails, help the people who are doing this thing again, because we're the ones that are in that lifestyle. Hey, I did it once and got away with it, but they caught me after like the 10th time, but I can do it all the way up until that 10th time again. No, sir.
In order to take his programs outside Shreveport and Caddo Parish, Judge Creighton accepts an invitation to speak to an elite group of Louisiana educators at a conference in New Orleans. This is an example of a trip the nonprofit organization could fund.
The Louisiana Center for Law and Civic Education is meeting and having their summer institute here in New Orleans. They've asked me to speak on one of my programs in particular, which is Sexting, Texting, and Beyond. And in that program, of course, I cover all of the laws that pertain to electronic misbehavior. That includes driving and texting. It includes sexting. It includes cyberbullying and cyber stalking. These educators from around the state are interested in what types of programs they can begin in their jurisdictions. So tomorrow I'll be talking about that, and I'll also be talking about the notion and the concept of educating our young people in schools. Perhaps you could get with some of your district court judges in your districts and parishes and have them contact me. I'll send them the jump drives on these programs that I do, the Sexting, Texting, and Beyond. Teachers in my area where I presented this love it. no pride in authorship. I'm happy to share it. My point is, I want the education process and the prevention process so we don't have unintended consequences like you've just seen through some of the videos. And I'm telling those that just don't know, no child miseducated, no child lost should be our whole point. So thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's such an honor to be here. And Peggy was so sweet to invite me and give me 90 minutes. Wow. Thank you.
I teach 4th grade in Crawley, Louisiana at St. Michael's School.
I teach at Glenbrook School in Minden, Louisiana.
The subject I teach is American history, which is a 7th grade level.
I think it's really important for children as young as 9 and 10-year-olds to understand our government and the way that the law works and how it affects them.
Very, very impressed with it. You know, a wealth of information that I can use when I go back to the middle school.
The earlier they learn, the easier it is to avoid situations that may get them, possibly in trouble in the future.
The 32nd Judicial District Court Judge, Randy Bethencourt, also attended the conference and actively presents Judge Creighton's programs in southern Louisiana.
Students probably have a preconceived notion of what a judge does. They may never have seen a real judge. So when they get a judge to come into the classroom, they get to see, hear, and talk with, ask questions of a real judge. It becomes personal. And so I think that's one of the strengths of the program. I think once the judges see that, the enthusiasm would carry them over.
The teachers, law enforcement, judges, and inmates all see the value of Judge Creighton's programs. But there is one perspective we haven't heard. The victims. Hey, what's your name?
Solomon.
Okay, good to meet you. I'm
nice
Jonathan.
to meet you.
Jonathan Traylor.
Police cam, everything,
Yeah.
They see the people, I got a witness at the gas station, and I load them up, and they tell the place they tell me, and then when I take them where they want to go, and they tell me to take them in a neighborhood, bad neighborhood.
You cab driver, right?
Yes, that's
okay.
me.
Yeah.
So come on, see my car.
Okay.
All this blood, and I put a bleach on it. All my city blood in my clothes in the house.
They bled all over your cab?
They beat me.
Oh, they beat you?
Yes, they did. I put a bleach on it.
Wow.
And all this in.
So they beat you from behind, and then they made
one of them choked me, and another one come around and punched me, and I was in a car.
What did you do after they started the beating?
What I did, I took my key out and I jumped out of the car. Now I gotta go wash all this, and I gotta show all this broke right there, between, right there.
Right.
All this broke, look my blood up here too, right inside here. That's my blood right there.
Well, the judge is doing a program on crime prevention. What do you think what's your reaction to that?
We need that.
So there'll be a way we can get out of it. Yeah, I like that. This is as hard labor as it gets, right?
Yeah.
We are here at Angola, Louisiana, at Angola State Penitentiary. I've been a judge now for 22 years. I have had the difficult task of sentencing a number of people to Angola. Angola is one of those state penitentiaries where those that are sentenced here basically remain here. They live here and they die here. There's not a one-way. It is a one-way ticket. It's not a round trip. Before I was a judge, I served as a prosecutor in Caddo Parish, and I prosecuted a number of violent crimes and habitual offenders, and prosecuted those through the process, through the finality of hard labor sentences being affirmed by the Supreme Court, including a death penalty. I prosecuted a capital case back in 1990, and that man is on death row. This is basically, as I said, a one-way ticket, not a round trip. This is the end of the road for those repeat offenders, those repeat felony offenders, or those violent offenders. And what we seek to do through these programs is to teach the young people that they have to be careful, that they cannot hang with a bad crowd, and that they must comply with all of the rules of society. And if they think impulsively and if they think in terms of violence, this is where they can end up.
At the age of 16, I found myself going to school and selling drugs, and
the person whom I was selling drugs for was a very violent person, and but nevertheless he was someone whom took care of me, and as a result my responsibility was only to sell drugs for him, and so that's what we agreed. However, on one particular night, this same person just told me to get these guys in the car. By the way, these were some guys I was close to, and just to get them in the car. And upon me getting in the car, things got out of hand, and as a result, he wound up killing one of them. And ever since then, I've been incarcerated since 1994. If you just keep someone focused and give them more options, that often leads them to have another opportunity rather than turn into crime. So I do think that having a conducive environment means the world, means everything. I believe that education is probably the most pivotal tool that we need in our high schools. And I believe that more education will ultimately lead to more better performance, more structured, and I know that it will reduce crime, better education. I think one of the most craziest things is that most people engage in crime, in criminal activity, and they don't know the law. And especially dealing with being a principal of some sort, just being at the wrong place at the wrong time, or going in and rob a store, and that's all you're going to have a little fun, rob a store. But in the process, when the guys kill them, you're just as guilty. You're guilty of murder, due to the law of principle, and the act of committing a felony. So, and I find that a lot, especially young people, they have no idea what the law is all about.
Let's review the statute. It says all persons concerned in the commission of a crime are principals, whether present or absent, whether they directly commit the act or aid in its commission, or directly or indirectly counsel another. So if you're watching a friend as a lookout go in to steal something in a store or burglarize a house, then you are as guilty as that person who went in, and that's what the law is. You need to know that.
You don't ever want to go where I've been. This is no place for no kid, no grown man. This is for animals.
Just think about what you're doing. Think about the consequences. Because, I'll be honest with you, if you do it, you will come to jail. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's guaranteed.
It must be about 100 degrees out here, and we've just finished a 2-hour tour of Angola, Louisiana State Penitentiary. What did we learn? Well, I think what we learned is that nobody should want to come here, and for any young people, they need to understand the consequences of their criminal misbehavior. They could end up on a one-way ticket to Angola. Let there be no doubt that I administer justice in the courtroom each day. I've always been tough on crime, for that is who I am. It is my pledge to the public, my vow to my community. But we must be smart on crime. I'm convinced we need to go beyond just what lawyers and judges do in the courtroom. More than 50 years ago, President John F. Kennedy said, "A child miseducated is a child lost." I say that lost children grow up to become lost adults, and these lost adults tear up our communities. They occupy our prisons, and they cost us, the taxpayers, millions of dollars each year. My answer to the alarming and outrageous crime rate and the ridiculous recidivism rate is that we better educate our children in the area of civics, including criminal law, and this concept of accountability. They're not getting it at home. We need to go over and beyond what we're doing now, because what we're doing now isn't working. We're talking about crime prevention through education. Remember the adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That is certainly true in the area of criminal justice. Let there be no more impulsive, angry, and violent young men like Raymond Darnell, whom I sentenced to 150 years in prison. Let there be no more impetuous 15-year-olds like Tony Urban, hanging around with a bad crowd and arm-robbing a victim for tire rims. Let there be no more young men like Angola inmate George Gillum, who had no idea about the law principles. That you may be responsible for what others in your group do. Through educational programs like Don't Let This Be You, perhaps we can reach these lost children before they ruin their own lives and wreck the lives of their victims. This concept has spread throughout Louisiana, and judges are in the classroom. I hope that these programs go nationwide. I need your help to make this happen. If you are a judge or district attorney, you can teach these programs in your community. Actually, everyone can help. We all have unique relationships with others and skills that we can offer. We are looking for people who can partner with us in showing this documentary to their friends, family, and business associates. We all know word of mouth is the most powerful promotional vehicle. Please help us make the difference in the lives of our youth by being an advocate for us in your local schools. By getting a few copies of this documentary and putting them in the hands of school teachers and administrators, religious and community leaders, your community can directly benefit. By giving this documentary to judges and attorneys in your area, you can help us recruit the presenters we need to make a difference where you live. All of our support material is available online at www.justiceandbeyond.com. By the grace of God, we can educate the miseducated. We can inform the uninformed. We can help those that are blind to see the right and wrong, good and evil of their ways. With your support and by the precious grace of God, some of those that are lost will be found, and together we can make a difference for your community, your wonderful state, and our great country. Please join me in being smart on crime.
Amazing grace, how sweet, sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was lost, but now I'm found. Oh Lord, was blind, but now I see. Oh Lord, I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieve. Listen, how precious did that grace, thank you Jesus, appear the hour I first believed. Oh Lord, I believe when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shine me as the sun. We know less days to sing God's praise. And when we first begun, oh Lord, praise God. Praise the Lord Jesus.
you.